Hello dear student, this is Rajnoot Singh and today I am going to explain the remaining portion of chapter first in SST. You can say in history. So my dear student, I have explained the maximum part and some remaining parts, that is here some remembering points that we have to discuss with you. So my dear student, look at this. First point, calligraphy, and the second, archival records, and the third, importance of geographical factor, and the last, Indian subcontinent, terms of, or you can say terms to describe the Indian subcontinent. We have to know about these points. So my dear student, let's start. First of all, we know calligraphy. What is calligraphy? I had told you in the previous video that calligraphy is basically the art of writing alphabets in an artistic manner, and you know this very well. So my dear student, it was a common feature of the manuscripts written during the medieval period of that time in the Indian history. Floral and geometric motifs were used to decorate books and monuments of the period in the medieval history of our India. Although the knowledge of calligraphy had already existed in India, it was only with the Persian influence that a distinctive style emerged in it. This is the some most important point about the calligraphy. So my dear student, the next point, archival records. We will know about the second point, archival records. What is archival records? Apart from various literary sources discussed above in the calligraphy, government documents are archives in the form of royal firmans or decrees issued by Indian rulers. Treaties or agreements between different kings, chronicles of court and records of revenue also serve as important role of information for this period in the medieval period. They throw light on the administrative policies and the political system of the kingdoms. So my dear student, these are written archival records that you have to know very clearly. And the next point that we have to discuss about this, the point called importance of geographical factor. Geography is one of the most significant drivers of the Indian history. My dear student, in the absence of the concept of space, history would rather be incomplete and devoid of its written substance. That is why history is often regarded both as the history of mankind and the history of the environment. Keeping this in mind, it is crucial to go back in time in order to understand the geography and environment of the regions that have influenced the history of India. The three major physiographical divisions that have played an important role in the history of Indian subcontinent are the Himalaya uplands, the Indo-Gangetic plains, and peninsular India. Dear student, the Himalaya uplands consists of a chain of lofty mountains that you know very well. Due to the weathering and erosion, huge quantities of fertile alluvium are continuously carried down into the plains from these mountains. The three great perennial river systems, for example, the Indus, the Ganga, and the Brahmaputra, are fed by the Himalaya snows. The alluvial plains of northern plains of the northern India appear on the map like a huge arc extending of the map extending for the 3,200 kilometers from the mouth of the Indus to the mouth of the Ganga river. The Harappa or Indus Valley civilization, one of the earliest civilizations in the world and the first in the subcontinent, flourished in the plains along the river Indus and its tributaries more than 4 millennia ago. Similarly, the Ganga plains have sustained and nurtured city life, state, society, and imperial rule from the first millennium BC. So my dear student, we have already read in the previous class about their key role in the making of our ancient history. The northern plains and peninsula India are separated by a large intermediate zone that is called Central India, extending from Gujarat to western Odisha over a stretch of 1600 kilometers. The Aravalli Hills in Rajasthan separate the Indus Plain from the peninsula. The intermediate zone is characterized by the presence of the Vindhya and Satpura ranges and the Chotanagpur plateau covering portions of Bihar, Bengal and Odisha. This region can be subdivided into 4 sub-regions. the land of the Rajputs between Udaipur and Jaipur areas, the Malwa Plateau around Ujjain, more popularly known as Avanti in ancient India, and the Vidarbha are the sub-regions around Nagpur, and the Chhattisgarh plains in eastern Madhya Pradesh are Dakshin Kosla. So my dear student, despite difficulty in condition, or you can say in communication and movement across the intermediate zone, contacts between these four apparently isolated pockets and between this region and other physiographic divisions did take place. On the southern edge, central India begins the formation called Peninsular India. The rocky formation gently slopes from the west to east, and four major rivers flow into the Bay of Bengal. These are some most important points that I have discussed. So my dear student, we have to know about the last point that is written on the green board. Last point, Indian subcontinent. I have told that the terms to describe Indian subcontinent. So see this. Throughout its history, the Indian subcontinent has been known by varied names. During the ancient period, it was referred to by such names as Bharatvarsha and Jambudvipa. The Vishnu Puran says the country lying to the north of the ocean and south of the Himadri. For example, the Himalaya is called Bharatvarsha. This name is also mentioned as in the Rig Veda. South Asia was also called Jambudvipa, or the land of the wood apple tree in the Puranic and Buddhist texts. My dear student, the term Aryavart or land of the Aryans is said to have been used by Patanjali to denote the northern part of India lying between the Himalayas and the Vindhyas. The Jain Avesta, the sacred book of the Parsis, describes the subcontinent as the Sapt Sindhu, or the land of seven rivers. The ancient Greeks referred to the Indians as Indoi, or people of Indus. During the medieval period, the name that gained popularity was Hindustan, and this is the most appropriate name of our country. The name is still used in India, and therefore it is important to know how this name came into existence. This is very important. So my dear student, on a physical map of India, you can notice that the river Indus or Sindhu and its 5 tributaries Ravi, Sutli, Vij, Chena and Salem from the western frontier of India. Sindhu was an ancient Aryan name which could not be pronounced correctly by people who invaded or visited India from northwest, for example, the Iranians, Afghans, Turks, Mughals, etc. and etc. In their language, the yes become H. So, they pronounced the river's name, the river Hindu. Came from the term Hindu only. The name Hindustan or the land of the river Hindu came from the term Hindu only. It was from the river Sindhu, that is called Indus, that the people living on eastern India came to be known as Hindus in medieval India, and from there the name of our country became Hindustan, and people know this by the name of Hindustan. I hope it is clear. So my dear student, that's enough for today, and we will meet in the next video. Thank you. Have a nice day.